Hi, this is Joseph Arthur. Thanks for checking out Come to Where I'm From. Please support us on Patreon, patreon.com/come to where I'm from. We are an independent podcast, and any contributions you can make are greatly appreciated. When was the last time we saw each other? Check.
It's been a minute. I feel like I saw you.
Entwine.
Well, Entwine, of course. At last I saw you physically, though, was at See Here Now.
All right.
Yeah. And I was,
Danny Clinch's festival.
yeah.
Is that when we saw you? No.
I saw him there.
Oh, you
I
did?
just saw him. Like, with my eyes.
With
I
your
don't think
eyes.
we even said hello.
hello.
I was like moving from stage to stage with my papers and stuff and drawing and doing that thing.
Todd DiCiurcio, Come to Where I'm From podcast, episode 115. Boom.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me. This is awesome.
I was just listening to this whole talk. Have you gone on Clubhouse yet?
No, what's Clubhouse?
The new app.
Wait.
It's interesting.
Is this going to be the jump off for Instagram? Because if it is,
Yeah.
I'm so ready for
Jump
that.
off?
Yeah, it actually it is.
I'm so ready.
It totally is, because it's all based on talking. So it's just like you go in these rooms and there's these conversations going on. So in a weird way, it's like the opposite of that whole thing social media has been, which has been like, here's a wacky image of me, or here's like a cool image of me, or whatever. Or, it's all image based. I mean, people make videos and write, what do you call them?
Blogs.
No, the captions.
Caption.
Right.
So there can be substance,
Mm-hmm.
But
All
this is all substance.
Did you just join or what?
Yeah, and it's interesting.
You want to give your hashtag on there?
I think it's Joseph Arthur.
Okay.
Yeah. But I was actually
appropriate.
so I was just on there listening to this whole room conversation about NFTs in the art market, digital art market.
NFTs.
Yeah, that's the new thing.
What does
Bring me
that
up to
stand for?
speed.
Dude, you're going to know this because this is like where everybody's going now, because now there's a digital art market and you can sell your digital art or digitize your analog art and make a whole lot, of inroads that way.
I'm ready. I've been the purest of purists, with what I do. Because all I do is bury my head in the work and make marks. I'm on paper and canvas. So NFTs, what's that stand for?
Non-fungible tokens. I don't
Non-fungible tokens?
Non-fungi.
Yeah. Non-fungi? Well, then that's not
I
me.
really think that's not me either, actually.
Not for me.
Hold on, let me look it up. Yeah,
Not for tourists like us, NFT?
Not for
no.
trade.
Not for trade.
Your clothing line that you did with Marsh, that's killer.
Thank you. Simon Spurr. I've been a fan of his forever.
Yeah, non-fungible tokens.
What the?
It might be
I thought you were
fungible.
making it up.
Spell this, Fungible.
Fungible?
It could be fungible, I don't know, but it's Fungible.
No, I thought you were joking.
It's a way to have a digital signature.
Did you start uploading yet or what?
I mean, I'm into digital art. I've been on the iPad and doing that for a long time.
Procreate.
So, yeah, like with Procreate or...
Do you use the pad alone or use a separate drawing pad?
No, I draw right on the pad.
Okay.
With the pencil now. And so I've been into it.
How does it feel as opposed to,
I mean, it's not as...
what's the trade-off with surfaces?
Okay, well, now, like, they actually have a screen that you can put on your iPad that has, like, a texture.
Oh, it has a tooth.
Has a little tooth.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I need to get.
That sounds more appetizing.
Yeah. Yeah, I need to get
Why?
that.
Just because the pen feels different on it?
It's like you anchor the writing utensil or the drawing utensil into the page, and if you don't have that, it's just like a glass surface. So it's too smooth, actually.
The smoothness takes away for the sensitivity, and so you can't get that thing that you get from paint. You know, like where it's just the lift and the push.
Yeah, drawing like a straight line becomes more difficult.
And the
It's
people
got a
who
little
use the
shake
big
on
ass
it.
screens and home, is that also smooth?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's
the same.
smooth. That's like the real drafters. Those guys go after it with those. I've seen those screens, and I don't understand. But
So that has no texture either, though.
no, it's nothing. It's just a blank. And those guys kind of like, they're like, you know, stenographers where they're like, you know, it's funny. That's pretty much what I do when I paint bands too. It's like the same vibe, but I really need the music. I can't be looking at a screen like that. It'd kill me. It'd suck my soul right out of me, I think.
Hey, so the paintings you make live, have you ever tried to make something similar on your own, and can you do it, or is the energy from the audience in the painting?
The energy is straight from the artist for me. I've kind of like when I get to that point where it's all those, you know, that moment where you're going to make that first mark, it blocks out everything except like what's happening on that stage. I really don't even consider the audience. And someone recently asked me about doing a piece of like the audience, and I was like, why? I was like, this is about the energy that the artist creates, and I'm reacting to that in a way. I mean, that's what I feel like is happening.
But the fact that it's in a live situation where there's like so many people observing you, or you don't think that energy gets into the work in any way?
No.
Huh.
I've never even thought of it. I think my nerves more, it would affect me before or after the work. And when I actually
I don't
work,
mean in a bad way.
No, not in a bad way.
Or
Just-
nerves necessarily, just energy.
I think if I'm anything for that, I'm more of a filter, and I'm just kind of like, if it's hitting me and I'm working with it, then it's there.
Mm-hmm.
But there's definitely, you know, there's a bristle to a show that has these almost force fields to it that are kind of coming at you, and I think that is a lot of the band even reacting to the audience. So I'm sure that's there.
Have you ever compared live paintings with paintings you do in the studio?
No,
Never? Like, is there a difference?
there is.
Yeah. I mean, for mine, there's a massive difference from what I do live to what I do in the studio.
It's like walking into a completely different house, in my world.
Yeah.
I won't touch them after I leave the venue. They don't get edited. It's a WYSIWYG from the time the performance starts to the end of it, and I don't edit, and it's just done. And then
Never gone back in on one?
Nope.
I have.
Have you really?
Oh, yeah.
On your
yeah,
live ones,
definitely.
yeah. The next night.
Not always,
Yeah.
but like here and there I will. I'm not like, I kind of consider it done, but then if I see, especially if it hangs around for a while, I mean that's the way paintings usually work anyway. If they're hanging around in my crib, like.
See, you've then brought it in. I need to open that up. I've not been able to open that up to that. I feel like there's a dogma to the idea of what I do. So it's like very strict to the process of start when they start, end when they end, and do no more. You know, and like show the guys at the end of the show, and then take it home and archive it. And then that's it. And then at my home, I'm like, then the next day I'm like putting ink grounds and working with acrylic and paint. And the night before or whatever performance that was is completely gone. It's like I'm onto a new reference almost.
Right. Yeah, I wouldn't do it the next day, but like 2 months later, it's been sitting on my mantle.
Oh, the other paintings I do are, yeah, right. But the other paintings I do, like, you know, you have to have it in your studio, your work, and you want to keep working on it. So it's a funny question when people ask, hey, how long did that painting take?
Right.
And you like start calculating
Yeah.
hours where you were working on it plus 5 other paintings at the same time, and you're like, I don't know, like a month?
Well,
Wow, it took you a month? I'm like,
I mean, like the actual actions within the painting don't take that long. It's all the consideration.
Why is it a time thing too for people?
Right.
Like, how long did that take? It's like, why does that matter? Are you
Is it
valuing?
worth more
Well,
if it's
yeah, is it-
5
Yeah,
minutes or 5
But
hours?
yeah, that's what they're saying. I think.
Yeah.
Well, Picasso, signed
yeah.
restaurant bills in 2 seconds, and that was a $100 bill or whatever. So, who knows?
Yeah, but for the audience, like when he paints live, I feel people, if they see it, okay, it only took him 15 minutes. Oh, it can't be worth that much. When you try to sell it, there's some sort of what's the word I'm looking for?
Disconnect.
Well, there's a
Correlation of how much people are willing to pay when they know it took longer to make or something.
Yeah, that value added thing.
The value, yeah.
The point is, it was about a time and place.
Mm-hmm.
And if people don't understand that it was about the time and you were there for that experience, that in itself, I think is priceless. I mean, that's where it's at. That's when you determine your price.
Right.
So don't you get asked like after a show, like, yo, how much for that? And they're thinking like $100, like I'll
Right.
give you $100 right now for that.
Right.
No, it's not for sale.
The thing
Really.
is, like for me, it's usually at least $100 worth of material.
Yeah.
That's a start. Like
More.
the canvas, and then like getting good oil sticks or whatever you use.
Acrylic.
It's like it's the investment is already in there. So
Yeah.
gotta give me more than what I paid for it.
Oh, way.
way more. But I guess Picasso said something like that, where he sold something for a lot of money that took 15 minutes, and somebody called him out on that, and he goes, yeah, it took me 15 minutes plus the 45 years I was alive before
That's right.
to learn how to do that.
That's right. It's like we just showed up out of the box. Here he is, the Jack in the Box
How many
painter.
people were standing around Picasso when he was painting and watching him? Not that many.
I don't know.
So-
I'm telling that story wrong, I'm sure, but there's
I
something
like
along
it.
those lines. Might not even be Picasso.
We could go Picasso all
It's
day.
actually
Yeah.
Joseph Arthur who said that.
I actually just made it up. So when did you start painting? Like, how did you come into being an artist?
I think as a kid, my mother taught art, so I had that experience happening, and at the same time doing art classes as a young kid. Maybe it was just encouraged, but I think from that experience and just drawing on tons of paper all the time, every kid starts drawing,
Mm-hmm.
and all parents have these things in their head about like, oh, my kid's going to be an artist, and then they just like redirect and never touch a piece of paper again. I think the combination of that thing that you want to do it, plus I think a true artist really is affected by so many traumas in their life, and that experience then like can be translated easier for them. Their mode of expression becomes a little easier, and it seems to just go directly onto these mediums. Like for whatever reason, art is easier that way. I don't mean it like it's so easy for someone that's, dealt with things, but they definitely have a lot more ammunition, to work with.
Yeah,
So
that's interesting.
and that's kind of the path. It's like this dysfunction junction that you live on. And it's like, well, that's my life. You can't change that. And so, and then it bleeds right into it. Fine art school for me was an automatic. I was like, oh, I'm going to be a painter. I'm going to do this, but I'm lying, because I started my first year undeclared. I was like, you know what? I can be a businessman. I can just like, I can do music on the side or art, blah, blah, blah. And there was no way. I nearly failed out of school the second semester I was there. And I said, I'm begging you to put me in the fine art department. And the dean was like, dude, your grades aren't even enough to transfer you. And then it took a few meetings and just me begging, and they allowed it. And they said, you better be the best damn artist that ever graduated from this school. And I don't think I am at all. But they gave me the chance, and I definitely took it seriously.
What school was it?
Kutztown University in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And I double majored there in life drawing and printmaking.
And did you do good? Did you do better?
I I graduated at top of the class there with double major, and I was very serious about it. I was extremely adamant.
Wow.
Once they let me in, I was like, I felt it. It was just like this energy. It was like, boom. And I was constantly creating like above. It felt like a thing where I wasn't even paying attention to syllabuses. Like it was just this outlet. And they were like, don't burn out. I remember like a lot of my professors being like, you're working fast, like real fast.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
Because it's the opposite. It like working hard promotes more work. It's the burnout comes like when you're stilted or stunted by your own dysfunction.
It's true.
That's
You stop yourself.
You stop yourself.
Yeah.
And then it's just weird because like the impetus that makes you make stuff suddenly turns on you. And then it becomes dark.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It does.
Scary as shit.
It does. And then you stare that down and you're dealing with a whole new like set of variables in this thing. And you're like, what's this? What is this? And you want to work with that. And then your work gets ugly or, maybe to you. And who knows? I went through some really heavy, dark phases with my work. I mean, just black ink, black paint, just figures disfigured, life portraits, giant works on paper, and my professors were like, he's going down the dark side now, and it was just happening, and it wasn't about even my syllabus at that time. So they were telling, you get a syllabus, and
Define syllabus. I know, but I just want the
it's
audience.
kind of like
asking for a friend.
Asking for a friend.
Yeah. The
like
syllabus
your study
for the semester, whatever.
Yeah, they give you this kind of outline
Okay.
of times and projects that are probably these little, who knows, everybody does it different, but
to-do
it's like an
list.
outline. And a to-do list. And it goes from the
Right.
top to the bottom of the semester. It's like you're going to have this to hand in then and this to hand in then, and you're going to study this and this, but they don't tell you how you're going to study it or what they're going to teach you in those windows because you have to be in class to experience that. That's part of your education. And I from day one of that treatment and realizing that I had too much energy to even sit through it, that I wanted to create that entire time, and it would just build and build and build. So I would go home and I'd paint through the night and I'd just keep piling up works. And when the deadlines came around, I'd literally pick from like 10 to 13 different works. And I'd be like, oh, that one fits. And I told my advisor at one point that I was doing that, and I got in heaps of trouble for that. That was not a good thing to tell an advisor.
Why?
I guess I was kind of proud of it. I was like, look at all this work.
Of course you were.
And they're like,
yo,
wait, so what are you doing? You're not even paying attention.
Well,
But
it sounds like you were just doing your thing. Did you actually learn anything there?
of course.
Oh, okay.
But you got to remember too, like the people that you're confessing those things to have their own relationship with their own work and their own procrastination and their own inability to get on with it. So when an artist is going, hey man, I'm just killing it every single fucking day.
I'm having too much fucking fun here.
You want them to be proud
Yeah.
of you and go, yeah, man, but it's like human beings are human beings, Like
And art school for me was also the attack of psychedelics. Like I dove headfirst into. I remember opening a drawer and looking at a 5x7 postcard that was just a sheet of acid, and I would just rip off 3, 4, 5 a day and show
I have
up
a
in
similar
class.
drawer than that.
Yeah, it's like I remember that.
Actually,
I
a full
remember,
credenza.
I have that drawer in my house.
So everybody has one of those drawers at one point in their life, I think. And amazingly enough, I feel like it all kind of stuck, not just in my ankles, but I feel like in my brain it stayed open. Everything I was dealing with then, and I can still kind of use recall now. And it's really incredible to be able to do that I've actually maintained and retained a lot of the recall to work through it. Use that energy, so to speak, without having to use. So.
The only problem with like going through periods like that where you're just extremely productive and you're completely all in without any sort of doubt, like that youthful ego in the right place in a way. Like is when you then go through periods later and you're older and maybe not inspired. It happens sometimes. It must, and then you compare what you're currently like to that guy, and then it becomes an instrument to beat you up.
I try so hard to never answer to or make comparisons with anyone's work, because I've always felt that this thing isn't a competition.
Mm-hmm.
Sadly, I think somehow in the business of it, that can like get in your head.
I mean,
bit.
comparing yourself to yourself, though.
Oh,
that's what I was talking about.
We're going way down there.
Yeah, I was talking about comparing I'm just talking for myself, though. Like sometimes when I'm going through a dry spell or period where I can't get on with it for whatever reason, then I'll think of times when I was killing it.
Well, a good way to this is how I like to eliminate that. And I think I'm speaking to this now, what you're talking about. But I always say that the last thing that I created is the single worst thing I've ever done.
Mm-hmm.
So even if I'm working on it, that it's the worst thing ever, and you got to do better, and you have to figure it out on this painting that you're doing right now. And then you're done it and you're finished. You're not sure you're finished. You don't know if it's done yet. And you go, it's done. And you're like, it's awful. And then grab another one and just keep going. And you're just ultimately, for me, I mean, I don't know how you create or how you like to do it, but for me, I'm just thinking about, off the bat, I'm just like allowing the tools of like negative space and composition kind of rule the idea, and then add the expression, the marks just to that. So I have sort of a composition or almost in my head, but then I'll work around it. Like I'll be like, oh, I'm going to check out this angle or this angle, and, and kind of do it, from 360 degrees, so to speak, instead of like getting stuck on one way of like, oh, I see a figure here and they're laying down, but this way looks like they're floating and they're stuck to a ceiling, and maybe there's something to be said for that, and there's someone watching here, or I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Like
every space is thought about.
Sort of. It all ends up this square or whatever you use as your ground is not that. There is no border.
But what were you saying about this negative reinforcement where you say this last thing I did was the worst thing ever? I don't know why that's encouraging.
Oh, it's challenging. I think that's the challenge. I think that's what keeps you like, I can do this. I can keep doing this. I don't know. It's just that challenge.
That you can do better, you mean?
That you can always challenge yourself to observe a wider, viewpoint, or just to keep learning. I think in the end, you just want to keep learning about yourself and how you're reacting to things. Because ultimately, I think as life painters, which is what we are, you're reacting to the world and what's happening around you. So you almost have to tap a source to get energy all the time. That's always happening for you. You may not even realize it's happening. And you either store it up or you kind of just shush it away. And sometimes the shush away stuff, you remember it later and you're like, oh, I thought of that when I was working on this thing. It wasn't important then, but you know what? Here it is now. And it's going to work,
Right.
So it's real free.
But you're never happy then with anything you make.
Not really.
Right. You never look at something, man, it's great. I killed it.
The live paintings are the ultimate stick, because like that thing where I'm trying to say the most with the least. Like my marks are kind of a single line, blind contour, unless I'm painting with ink. And I'm just trying to get an essence out of what's happening in front of me musically for that experience, but moreover, I think as a portrait. And that gets crazy because I think I've said to Megs a couple times, it's really funny, but like over the years, I'm like, if I die with a brush in my hand and I can just like look at a blank canvas and it's like a dot, like I load the brush and I go, And it's just like making one last dot. That's the most successful painting I will have created in my entire life. Like, because if I could just keep getting to that point to do that, where you can just like load something with a single mark can mean so much emotionally. How do you charge it? How do you keep charging it? Like, what are you giving to that to make that mark talk back, really, and say something to the audience?
And what do you think that is?
I don't know. I never know. And I feel like I have collectors that they own stuff, they live with things, and then I'll get a phone call and, hey, did you put a rhinoceros in that painting? I'm looking over here and like doing a FaceTime. Like, I see this, and I'm like, I didn't do that. I was like, I'm glad you saw that. That's super interesting to me. But no, it was not built into the work. And most of the time that's what biomorphic
Extra value
lines
right
do.
there.
Yeah, there's added value. I'm going to need another 10K for that. You found a rhino. Yeah, it's 10K. Boy, if only. Call my NFT broker. So it is.
The NFT.
Telling you, man.
I'm telling
future.
you.
So, like, what do you think of this idea where they say painting is a performance, but one that you don't see? Like, it's one that's captured, but it's a performance captured in time or something along these lines. There's a quote about it, but I can't think of it right now.
Performance captured. I guess so.
It's a performance. Like when you're doing a painting, like alone in your studio, you are performing. Like there is a performance aspect to it. But
there's a lot of guys that like jump around too, like Jose Parla. And
right, or even the guy with the boxing gloves. I forget his name.
Yeah.
Like that type of shit.
That's true performance painting. I mean, that's what that is. I'm not a performance
But what's
painter.
interesting is that you see the evidence of the performance. You don't see the performance.
You're not
unless you're live, but I'm not talking about that.
I can barely dance as it is.
Yeah.
But it is a dance. I think there's something to be said for that, like in your way of creating marks, like how you use the tools. And that could be like I don't know, as subtle as like the twist of a brush and a wrist thing can make something explode on a work.
Yeah.
So the performance, I think that's again, try to say the most with the least. Like how do you do that? How do you charge? I can't get into like the whole maybe that's why I've never really, I mean, all the works I've done, and I don't know if you've been to a show where I've painted. Well, you might have been you're probably at one, but maybe not even know I was there. And that's the reality of it. I mean, that's who I am in those shows. I hide. So I'm either up in a balcony or I'm behind a stack on stage, completely out of sight, out of mind, because I'm on the floor and I'm usually just working over top of it. And it's not me performing. It's just kind of trying to be a conduit almost to.
Have you ever done it to where the audience can see the painting?
There have been moments. I can recall a show with this band Guster from. This was like when they produced, Steve Lillywhite produced an album, and they were on fire, and then we did a show together, and I did a live painting, and they had me do it on stage. So that made me nervous. So here we go, like, oh, we want you on stage with us. And I'm like, as like an auxiliary member, and I'm like, okay, I'll go for it. And it was a bigger piece. It was large.
That's because they're hippies.
Yeah, and they were like, yeah, they are hippies, and I love that. They're pranksters.
I'm just kidding. I'm not dissing.
I think we're part hippies too.
I'm a total hippie.
Look how we're living.
Exactly.
So, I mean, they had this whole setup where at the end of the show they say, okay, so at the end of the show you're done, right? At the end, right? I'm like, yeah, I'm finished. It's done. Okay, so they're like, cool. So then walk out onto the stage, holding it up to the middle of the stage and just wait for the cue. And I'm like, hey, you got to be kidding me. I was like, absolutely not. And they're like, hey, come on. And I was like, all right. So it was like the very end of the show.
Much.
And it was after an encore. Yeah. No, it wasn't hard convincing because I knew I was finished with it. I don't care what anybody thinks.
Yeah.
And so like I I take it out and literally and then hold it up, and all these lights go on in the middle of it, and they did this like encore. It was like ba 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 ba, you know, like a full encore thing, and like and just shut down the lights. And I was like, that was ridiculous. That was uncalled for, absurd. And we laughed all night.
Sounds fun though.
It was fun.
Are you
They're
usually
fun.
commissioned by bands, or it's just friends at this
No.
point?
Yeah, so it's really been about. It started with bands that I love to listen to in the studio, and that I just always have on all the time. And I'm like, how is this affecting? How is this music that's playing right now affecting what I'm doing? It has to. Something's going on because I'm feeling different emotionally. I react differently to songs, so that has to be doing something to the paintings. That's how it started. So I originally was asked to do a live show in Orlando in 2000 with Guided by Voices. That was the very first one. Before that, I had done a lot of portraits of artists, like recording or making sculptures, just working. But it had never been done for me at an actual event or performance. So it was this kind of event thing right there from the start. And then it just started to snowball. It was like, I remember Jason Ross from 7 Mary 3 was in the audience right then and there. And he's like, hey, you do that with our band. And was you know, actually I think it was Giddy, their drummer. And that's how I met Jason. But anyway, long short, it just kind of like went on, and I started reaching out to bands, and I remember finding a CD in the trash of Grizzly Bear, and this was back in the MySpace days, and I reached out to them on MySpace. I was like, hey, I want to draw you guys. They're like, what are you talking about? I was like, yeah. And they're like, come to Soundcheck. So I went to Soundcheck. Like, okay, cool. We're going to set you up over here. It sounds great. And I would just keep reaching out to bands and going the route of bands that I loved and was working with. And so, yeah, it was super fun.
Have any of them become like album covers or anything like that? Or used in any way for promotion?
So Broken Social Scene used theirs for a tour poster.
That's great.
It was awesome. It was 2011, I think. Was that it?
That's when you were starting still.
Yeah. Well, so that's
2011.
2011. Yeah. So 11 years. And that was, and then they did a tour poster and a T-shirt. It was really cool. And they're super into the arts.
Did you get like residuals for that?
They just paid me.
Oh, okay.
So.
Because if you're dealing with NFTs, then if they like repurpose artwork, like or if somebody resells your artwork at a higher price, then more money gets kicked back to you. So it's like you get royalties as an artist as opposed to like the art market now. So it's
blowing my mind.
Yeah,
this
man.
whole NFT thing since the beginning.
So do you have a separate studio or do you work out of your house?
I live and work in the space that I create in. So it's a 1,000 square foot loft in Williamsburg.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
And is work everywhere, or
I've managed to put a lot of the work on paper into flat files.
People have no idea how much space this shit takes.
They have no clue.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I have no clue.
It's crazy, dude.
When it's a hobby for someone and they can work in a little bathroom, that's fine. But when you're just cranking it out,
it spreads all
like
over
we
the
do.
place.
It's just everywhere at once, and you look like a hoarder of your own work.
Thank you. Thank you very much, because I have hoarding tendencies anyway.
It's going to happen.
Just without being an artist. But then you factor in like painting with like the art supplies and all that, and you accumulate stuff and this, that, the other. Then music too.
The music. Okay.
That takes space.
You want to go down the vinyl wormhole with me?
Oh man, I can't even deal with that.
How's your collection holding up? Mine's about to fall through the floor.
I used to have more records. You
had to like dump off a little bit, right?
Some, yeah.
Well, CDs came and went, and my friend that had a record store, he still does, Human Head in Brooklyn, stopped by one day and he says, you gonna keep all these CDs? I was like, I don't even know if they play. He's like, I'll buy them. So he went through all of them and got them all off my hands. And thank God, because the last thing I wanted to keep are CDs
I still
around.
have mine in storage.
But not to belabor the whole NFT thing, but that's what is also happening is our whole world is becoming more virtual. And so within those virtual spaces, people want to do things like even buy a hat that has a brand on it, like for your digital avatar, not even for you, and they'll pay real money for that. And then they want that avatar to have some kick-ass paintings in their little like.
I'm hoping this, like what you're talking about.
It's wild, but it's
I'm
what's
embarrassed
happening.
to say, but 10-year-olds who play all these games like
Right.
Roblox, they're all buying clothes for their avatars because I know my daughter's
Dude,
obsessed
that's
with
what
this
I'm
shit.
saying. Like, but it goes beyond
What?
that. It's
Yeah,
adults.
it's-
Adults want paintings. They want to. People want to collect things. People with money want to
Yeah,
collect
they do.
things. You
They
know.
do.
So, but like to situate yourself as an artist in the place where you can sort of. Because you have to keep you have to keep like reimagining yourself and manifesting yourself, and the manifestations of old don't necessarily stack up, and sometimes they work against you in terms of just like, what's going on now? You know what I mean? Like that type of shit.
I do.
So it's just interesting that like, especially in this world where we have to keep reimagining ourselves and keep like. There's no rest here, you know, in a way.
You're right. No, you're right. But you're a creator, and so I feel that. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Right.
And this NFT thing, it's got my ear, because if there's a way that can be marketed without me dealing with it, like...
Well, you have to deal with it, but it's a different thing to deal with. It's like getting into like... There's NFT art markets called like super rare, because I've been researching.
You and me are going to watch this like in the future and be like, we're going to have to do a whole new podcast because now we're NFT experts. We can't show people that.
Oh yeah, no. Well, we'll do a
Before and after.
We'll do another one in a year.
Now that the
when we're,
seed's
like,
planted,
NFT
you can bet your ass I'm going to find out what the hell it's all about.
No, I know you will.
Yeah.
And hopefully it does great for you. But there's ones called Rareable and then Super Rare. And these are like NFT art spaces. So you can get your NFT like art like space. I think Super Rare is curated.
I think you're okay. I saw something that a friend of mine did. Trevor Andrews, Gucci Ghost, the artist.
Mm-hmm.
He did like these online collectible of one of his Gucci Ghosts, and it's like the thing just like spinning around. Look like a GIF. I'm like, so
Exactly.
somebody buys a GIF.
Yeah,
I was like, and what do they
yes.
just put it on a thumb drive and in their little collection and be like, look at
Yes.
this,
Yes.
or like
I think it's for public
And it's
consumption.
no, it's not for
No?
public consumption. That's the point.
Really?
It's
yeah,
private.
it's private.
It's a private collection.
But you can't see it until you buy it, pretty much, or until you're in that market to buy it.
It's like-
Even
So you
music
can't-
is going to go this way. Like people are selling songs with NFTs and they're not making them public. So it's like,
Oh, dude, you should be killing that.
well,
'Cause-
I'm learning about it, you know, but yeah, it's like something to consider for all artists out there. Look into the NFT thing. And then give me some kickbacks if you
Yeah, all right.
if you break big and you heard it here first.
I heard it here
I
first.
heard it here first.
At least join our Patreon.
I joined the Patreon.
You know, at least join that. Throw us
That's perfect.
exactly.
Yep. All right, then you get a percentage. We'll figure that out when I get set up.
Yeah. So, but you get a lot of good press though. Like you've gotten a lot of good articles, and that's not easy to do, and like get in features and stuff like that. So,
I have incredible PR.
Oh, is here,
is Meg's your PR? The beautiful Megs.
Mega PR.
That's good.
Well, the projects are, I feel like, are something like we work towards, and I'm just always working, and we go out, we meet people. It's New York.
Mm-hmm.
It's what you do here, and you're out in that moment all the time, and people meet you and find out what you do.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, I think it was Free Arts where I met Josh Radner, who's one of your guests.
Yeah.
Right.
And I had a work in there. I think it was one of my live drawings, actually. It might have been. Yeah, it was. and it was up for auction, and we met there. He liked the work, and he said, "Hey, I want to show you something. Can I email you?" And I was like, "Okay." And he emails me a script for this movie he was making called Happy Thank You More Please. And he's like, "I'm seeing your artwork as a plot point in the film. Would you be interested in that?" And I said, "Yeah, totally." So I went and I worked with him, and I worked on set. And so I did all this artwork for this kid in the film, and all these beautiful things on colored paper and stuff. And we set it all up. And yeah, the art was in the film. They ended up using it for a bunch of like poster things and offset stuff.
That's
So it was
great.
a fun experience, like to just have it go into that world, because I never saw that coming. But I've always been like a yes guy. I love collaborating with people. I'm a people person. I like to be around people creating things all the time.
It's the best.
It's incredible.
It's awesome. I love it when things like that happen, when you're like, how did I wind up here doing this? You know, and that's one of the things, the vehicle of that, it takes you to those places.
It does. It really
You know,
does. It's this thing. I don't know. It's just,
It's wild.
but it's being here too, as you know, and there's an energy that on this rock of Manhattan that is unlike anything in the world. We've all traveled and been places. I can't say I've been everywhere, but I've never had that feeling that I get here when I just get to this town, and I just don't have it anywhere else.
What do you think it is? It's so much about the street.
Magic.
It's the emotion. It's such an emotional place. Like, you're connected on the level of the street with so many people, and there's just so many glances and this, that, and the other. It's just the energy. I think it's the energy of people, really.
Isn't it crazy that you and I could go for a walk, all right? And I could probably guarantee you that without even saying someone's name or whatever, we'll run into someone we know, and probably in common.
Mm-hmm.
In these neighborhoods for sure.
Where does that happen? I've not been here that long. It's not like I've been here my whole life. I was born in Pennsylvania, and I made it here, but it's not like I'm known that way either. But you'll run into someone that you know, and it's meant to be.
Yeah.
It really is meant to be.
Yeah, it's true. It's like you can go out and have no real plans, and then, end up coming home like 2 days later.
We've done that too. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That one.
What about Andy Warhol? He came from Pennsylvania and wound up in New York.
He's a Western PA guy. Yeah.
Does he influence you at all?
I think every kid's obsessed with Andy in the beginning. As soon as you start seeing all that pop art, that movement that he created, it's inspiring.
Mm-hmm.
But at this point, you're like, another Warhol. And then even the Warhol Foundation closed its doors. They were like, hey, listen, there are no more Warhols left to give reference to or whatever. It's all been documented, and yet people are still finding them under beds and things like that. Mm-hmm. So they say, so it's probably the most copied artist in the world too.
Right.
I would imagine that the copies are hard to discern from the originals at this point.
It'd be easy to do one probably for somebody that was focused on it. I mean, it's silk screen.
Yeah.
And
I worked with Alexander Heinrici, who did a lot of his stuff in the later years.
Uh-huh.
And it was all just hand silk screens.
Right.
From his photographs.
Yeah.
And they're using simple separations to make these big screens by hand.
I never even thought of that. But yeah.
He did do some paintings. We painted over things. And so he does have a mark, so to speak, I think. But I don't know how much of that he did or someone else did around him or told him to do or directed it.
Yeah.
It's like Jeff Koons even at this point. I mean, he's a director. He's an artist, but he's a director. I mean, he walks into his factory and these guys are all painting in his style.
Yeah.
Doing his work.
Again, I'm going to bring up NFT, but it goes with Koons because it's artists of that stature that normally are just completely out of the realm of possibility for anyone normal. Mm-hmm. Now suddenly they can perhaps, mingle with the common folk. You know what I mean? Which is interesting.
Yeah, I think I'm thinking of Koons because we met once, and we were just talking, and I remember him saying something about, I wish I could make art that was more accessible. And I was like,
Well, now he can.
I was kind of like, how inaccessible are you, do you think?
But
Like,
it's an
do you mean because
it's
a millionaire?
an interesting problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he's completely, inaccessible or, to anyone
For
normal.
original, yeah, sure.
Right.
In your house, yeah, no.
Yeah. But I said, hey, if you want to give it all away, you can do that too. If you want to just give it to the people you think
Can't
should
really
access
do
it
that. Can't really do that.
from a business standpoint.
But
you
this
can't.
provides a way, possibly.
I think it's cool. It's a neat concept. I just don't know how to. It's almost like, do I have to animate work now? I have to figure out how to animate those paintings.
I'm kind of thinking like that too. Like if you want to
imagine your figures like in a conversation.
yeah, just like doing stuff. I've already
Yeah.
started putting movement on them. It's made me go into different realms.
Movement in your poetry
and
like
explore
conversations.
Yeah, and explore like different ways of making art, and also legitimizing digital art, making me take that as seriously as I take everything else. It's just an interesting thing, and like I want to ask you this: like, how do you vitalize your style or create a new style? How much is it to do with different techniques or just different states of mind?
I think it's about just stripping things down that you've built up. Using subtraction instead of addition, instead of like building up onto something, taking away from what you've already built up, and then finding differences from where you built up from within the subtraction. Because there's going to be levels that, and it's just in my head, but you're going to find levels in the subtraction that you didn't touch on when you were adding on to your work, when you were building up your marks.
I got you.
You'll find things far and away that you didn't realize were there, I think. Because it's just it's like the tide, it's like, there's just an ebb and flow to creating all the time. And it's this circular thing. It's the simulation of it.
We're in the simulation.
We're in a simulation right now. You know that,
Definitely. I more and more think we are in a simulation.
right? We just watched that documentary.
Which
just
one?
watched it.
What's it called?
What's it called? Glitch in the Matrix.
Oh, I didn't see that. Is that on Netflix?
I think so. It might be
and
HBO.
it-
I'm not sure.
And it's about where they're in a simulation.
It's about theories because they can't prove any of that. And one of the theorists, these guys are all whizzes. These guys are all these program guys, and they're talking about how they're finding the simulation within, the work that they've either created and they're seeing these things of the Mandela effect. I don't actually believe in the Mandela effect.
What is that?
The Mandela effect. It's this idea that, people believe that Nelson Mandela died in jail. He did not die in jail. I don't remember that at all. So anybody saying it to me, if I only had half knowledge of that, I'd probably agree with them. And then it would keep the forward progress of the, Mandela effect. But I think it's misinformation, to be totally honest. It's so skewed with the oversaturation and desensitization of people that we're dealing with, and that's a big mess right now, and that's where that comes from. In my opinion, I don't think that any of that stuff is true. They said, the magic mirror on the wall, and the one person on there is like, tell me you didn't hear mirror on the wall. I'm like, I've heard that. Yes. Someone just translated it that way and didn't say magic mirror on the wall. They're like, it was never magic mirror, but now it is. And it's
So
like,
wait, so
I
that's
think it always was
part of the documentary. This
yeah,
mirror
these are
thing?
ideas of the glitches in the Matrix. And I think the other theory is that you're, replaying these things. But when a person that's lived on video games their whole life tells you this, you have to think that like they're just assimilating things that are happening in their real life and they're seeing it happen on a video game. And like, well, why can't it be like that? Well, it can't, because we're a physical thing. We have flesh and blood and bones.
The point is, video games will, and virtual reality will one day evolve to the point where it'll be indiscernible from actual reality.
It's happened.
So
Yeah.
the idea is that it has already happened. and we're in that virtual reality. And and according to Elon Musk, there's like 1 in billions chance that this is original reality. I mean, whatever. I don't know, but that's that's just what he said.
Can you wrap your head around that?
I can totally wrap my head around it. I mean, in that, okay, if virtual reality is going to evolve to the point where it's indiscernible from actual reality, right? That means it already has done that, and we are living in a simulation of the history building up to that. It's easy to wrap my head around. Whether or not I think that's true or not, I have no horse in that race. I don't really care.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'm not afraid of it. History will repeat itself. I mean, that's the ultimate comment on that.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that scares the living hell out of me has got to be these like robots they're building that look like dogs and people. And I'm like, what if that thing is programmed to go out and just terrorize every single person? And how are you going to defend yourself if this thing can knock down your doors and walls and you can't do anything? And it's got like, machine guns hooked to its shoulders. What are you going to do? Like, so if the real video game stuff becomes reality, we're all in a little bit of trouble. So, and I'm hoping we don't get to that point. There's some really awful stories too on the glitch in the Matrix thing about people that have just gone too far. And the one guy who murdered his parents, and he was obsessed with the Matrix, and it's just really sad. And these things, it's a form of psychosis, and I could see it happening to a brain. I mean, why everything else can? So.
Well, we're definitely entering into strange psychological places, like with the whole lockdown and people having to deal with just confronting themselves without, the typical social structures to like cushion that a little bit.
I agree. I think it's scary.
How have you been dealing with it?
I'm fine. I get to surf. Surfing kind of it lets me just unlock the mind and just let it all be at one with the sea, and have your dance with Mother Ocean. And
where do you surf?
In Brooklyn?
Sometimes. Long Island. Yeah. When I'm here, it's in Long Beach or Lido. It's good beach break there.
Where's your favorite place?
My favorite place would be Costa Rica.
Mm-hmm.
The water's warm, the waves are perfect, beautiful people. It's a country that hasn't seen war in like generations, so the people are unusually kind.
Nassara? Do you ever go to Nassara?
Yeah, Nassara is it's a cool spot. That's yoga central, man. Have you been?
Yeah, I've been there.
Nice. You didn't get on a board there? I mean, there's like waves right there.
I know. I didn't there, but I did in Todos Santos, Mexico, in Baja.
That's huge waves there.
Yeah.
Normally. You went out in that?
Well, I have actually several different times, different beaches too. Cerritos. But you can find smaller ones and learn there.
Yeah,
but it's a little rough, I guess.
It's heavy
for
there.
A beginner.
Yeah, it's heavy.
But I loved it. But I just now started to be able to get up, like what I mean. I'm just a beginner.
You get a board yet? No,
but I would love to just really go into surfing and learn it.
Surfing is the most. This is so cliche. I've heard these surfers say this 1,000 times, but it really is the ultimate metaphor for life and learning. For me, I mean, you can really assimilate. You want to talk about a simulation, like use surfing as that metaphor and to get better at what you're doing, because you're constantly just pushed into trying to stay in the right spot on a wave and dodge things so subtly, and it takes a lifetime because every wave is different. You never get two of the same waves unless you're at like, Kelly's Surf Ranch. And in which case, if you don't have the experience of riding the absolute perfect wave, you won't be able to. Right. So it takes, you have to grow to that. Like seeing a perfect wave isn't going to be your perfect experience. It's actually going to be harder than that. So you want to learn on a little bit more.
That's like life too. Like if everything's perfect That's almost the most
You want to
challenging.
learn. Yeah, you want to learn how to smooth out imperfections.
It's
that's
funny,
kind
like
of-
when life is really challenging, in a weird way, there's some kind of comfort because you get to the heat of the matter within yourself. It drives you straight to to the big soul questions, and then that's where you kind of have to exist in order to deal with the difficulty. I don't know.
It's that scream and leap moment, so to speak.
Yes.
You know, those.
How long have you been surfing?
I think since I was about, I guess around 6 to 8 years old, I was boogie boarding. You know, it was like a sponge.
Where'd
And
you
then
grow? In Pennsylvania, though?
in South Jersey. My family we would rent a home in Ocean City every summer for 3 months since I was born.
Okay.
So what I remember of surfing, the first time I ever tried to get up on a board, and that feeling was on a boogie board
Yeah.
that I had. And I was so small and light that I
shit
could
is
stand
fun,
on a
too.
boogie board, and that was fun.
Yeah.
They are fun.
Yeah, they
So
are
I was a
fun.
sponger for a long time. And then when I got up on it, and I was like, oh, you can stand. Look at these guys surfing. This is incredible. It blew me away. And back then, you couldn't get a lesson. Like now, it's like you go to any beach, you get a surf lesson. You get, it's so easy. We endured beat downs, as coming up in our scene in South Jersey for sure. There was a big local scene, even a little gang called Lono Tribe that would whoop your ass if you got on that beach the wrong way, or you got with one of them, got tangled up with one of them out in the water. It's just part of the. Now you don't have that.
Surfing gangs in Jersey?
There was everywhere. I mean, I feel like localism's a thing in any town. California's pretty good, heavy locals. Hawaii's probably the heaviest.
Yeah.
It's their land.
The
It's
haole
it's
thing.
their
They
culture.
call you a haole.
Yeah, Hallie.
So what's to stop you from getting an RV and just living on a beach and surfing all the time? Right? Is that what you like? Right? I mean,
She's dying for that.
I want to do that too.
I know. I see all these guys.
The only thing is the painting thing.
Yeah,
but if you transitioned into the digital realm,
before we
feel
got
me?
to there was
Take all your art with you.
is there an NFT tour bus we could rent? We toured around before we got to Brooklyn. We toured around. I had a VW van again, and we would follow shows and festivals, and I would do these drawings with bands and venues all over, mostly on the East Coast. So we lived a little bit of that, and surfing everywhere we could in between. But now, I mean, it's a whole different ball game, because now you have these killer camper truck things I see all the time that
they're
are
amazing.
But
they also cost the same as a house a lot of the time. So
my buddy Chris has one. He goes out west, so he's out there already.
Oh yeah, what kind?
It's like a Mercedes one or something.
Oh, right, a Sprinter.
Yeah, it's real
So-
tall.
Do you ever get when you're out there surfing? Do you ever get inspirations for paintings, or is that just a whole other realm?
Yeah, totally. I feel like that's kind of where the energy centers for me, and it builds up there, and just the activity of it is what gives me a lot. How do I explain that? 'Cause
Well, it's in your
not to-
work. There's an oceanic quality to a lot of
Is
what
there?
you do. I think so.
I love that.
That's extra, Joe.
What?
That's extra. Tell you.
He didn't mean it. That's extra. It's in there.
Oh, it's like the rhino.
Yeah.
Get the rhino.
Okay.
That's
The
bonus.
rhino. The bonus.
Extra value on all his work.
NFT value. Yeah, and it definitely, there's a flow there for me, and I've rarely ever put, I think, the ocean, and it's like doing a portrait of the ocean,
Right.
like a beachscape or something like that. But I think we take from everything we experience the
Yeah.
most of.
Yeah.
And that's the best part. I mean, that's where art is limitless in that regard. There's never shortage of subject matter. I don't know how anybody could go for a block or have one based on the fact that you can already draw or paint. If you can move a brush around, anything in front of you is fair game and can turn into, beauty.
Do you usually capture things outside of you, or do you usually just capture things from within?
I think it's a combination. I feel like I'm more infusing the figure or the objects with an idea that I think is happening with that object or person, a conversation they may or may not be having. And I'm trying to create that. And then trying to make it far enough away from the audience that it's an adventure and an experience for them. So it's not just like, oh yeah, it's a guy walking a dog and that's not. It's so beautiful though. Look at the color. Look at this. Okay, but what else? You know, what else? So make people kind of look through the surface more into a 6-dimensional range instead of just a 3-dimensional range of like.
What do you mean 6-dimensional range?
Like through a surface. So a simple way to put it is like if I was drawing your portrait here and all of a sudden it was like I'm gonna layer over the chord marks here that are going through and it's gonna come out and it could come out of your head at the top,
like that Jimi Hendrix poster,
right? Like
you
the Jimi Hendrix poster.
One?
So you're just adding like layers and layers and just maybe make people think
like
a little more.
putting 2 different 3-dimensional spaces on top of each other.
Yeah, it's fun, like superimposing.
Yeah,
and a photographer.
Yeah, sense. Layering. It's all layering. How often do you make something where you like how do you know when to stop?
That's the best question. How do you know when to stop?
It's tough. That's why I'm trying to figure out what you would say.
That's why the live
is
good.
lately, but that's a done deal. We know that. But like in the studio, like how do you know? Like it's like to me lately, it's been like when I make a mark and it doesn't make it better, I then take that as a real sign. Like when all of a sudden it subtracted something, it subtracted space that was doing more than what the line was doing. And threw off the whole composition, then I'll like pause and stop, and sometimes that'll be done.
But then is that all you see when you look at the painting? That
no,
one line?
No. Like I either cover it up or it's not as bad. It just gave me the sign that it said like
a feeling.
It gave me a feeling to stop.
Yeah, you put like you'll have like if I have what I feel is like too. I don't know. I could get to a point where I almost feel like I'm too busy with something. Like it's all too busy. This composition, I can't. And then I'll pick a color that's completely offset to what I've been working with, and I'll block an area. I'll just put it down right over top of an area and not use any of the marks underneath it, and then see if it creates something around it. 9 times out of 10, it does. And then you got another thing to work with. But then I'll start to think, maybe I'm getting towards the end here. Because if you just keep going with that, I mean, you could make paintings and paintings and paintings, and all of a sudden you still only have one painting. Right. At the end of the day,
it's so true.
Like, you should have seen this 2 days ago.
I know. Like,
it looked
there's
like
20
this. I took a
paintings
picture.
in this.
And people are like, you should have left it like that. So.
You used to do that.
Oh, dude, I hate that when I take a picture of something, and then I overpaint, and then I have the evidence of it being good. That sucks.
Well, then you show it to somebody too.
Crazy. You would paint something, and then you'd start going over it. I was like, oh.
That's fun though.
It is.
And the energy of what's underneath does kind of creep through.
It is fun though. That's the thing. It does, and you feel it.
Yeah.
You know it's there. You can feel it in your gut, and you're like,
what do you think of like Cy Twombly?
Ooh, I like Cy Twombly work.
Yeah, I mean he's like so successfully minimal. Like it's like minimalism is great.
Yeah,
and I'm into it.
You know who's like, a master of it?
Who?
Degas.
Oh, okay, I don't.
Look at some Degas drawings. You'll be like, oh, like
right.
Just
interesting.
Like
yeah,
there's some incredible stuff.
Degas.
Yeah, Degas.
He did like figures though too, right? Yeah.
Mostly figurative. Yeah.
Right.
Dancers and
but like real minimal pencil sketches or whatever, like just
the
like
gesture of it was like everything. It's all there and nothing. And if any of us could get to that point, we are living the dream. Others would argue. I mean, you could, I don't know. Well, okay, back to when work's done. I avoided it. Sorry. I have to step away from work for a couple of days.
Mm-hmm.
And I just like will walk around it and walk around it. And she's watched me just sit in the chair and like stare at them and staring through them and around them. And I might get up and go, and then nothing. And then I might be like, I might not think it's finished. And the next day I'll go, it's done.
Right.
And when I say it's done, that's it. I put it away. It's put in the archive. I'll name it. I'll literally name it and sign it just so that I know not to work into it anymore.
And how do you name it?
So I write word association of barely audible things onto a note. And sometimes it's while I'm working. If I see something that reflects maybe some words or just maybe a haiku or I don't know, I'll write it down while I'm painting and I'll put it on a little piece of paper or whatever. And then I just put it into my notes. And I'll use these word associations for naming 3 to 5 works at a time after the fact. So maybe a month or so later, I'll come back to it, but it won't be about the same work anymore. I'll mix the words up. And essentially I'm just trying to divert any viewer from reading an experience into the painting, because ultimately I believe that the name or title of the work is completely irrelevant to the work, unless of course it's like me painting you today is going to be Joseph Arthur. That's one thing. That's a portrait. But if it's one of the paintings and it's like the last one I just did, Player One, Runaway. It's a long name. See, I don't even remember them, but this is like I put them all together and I just tag them, and then that's it. And that's the work. And I keep it as even I can't assimilate like how it would go together. Amazingly, I have a friend who's on the spectrum a bit, brilliant songwriter and artist himself, and really special, unique person. And he's managed to find like these arteries in the work that go with my wording and how I did it and what he sees. And it's so interesting because he's like found a way. It's like, oh my God, there really is a way. And what you're describing is legitimately a way to see this trail, somehow. And I thought, just how interesting. And if that's what people's minds do, well, that's the life that you're leading is finding a way through that, through art. It's brilliant. I just thought that was beautiful. I don't get that very often, that anybody even comes close to that. They just go, weird name, but I like the painting. It's just.
He finds the purpose of the name.
He does. Yeah.
Well,
He's also like a master.
Words are powerful. I mean.
They are.
And it's like I think they are like used by the subconscious space or the spirit world or whatever to communicate with us all the time. And even like, especially like an artist making work and then naming it something could seem completely random to the artist or, not seem to hold much weight, but in the end, maybe it does. And that's what you're talking about with your friend, discovering it.
He's interesting and he'd be mad probably if I said his name.
Especially since you called him on the spectrum.
Yeah, but I don't mean that in a negative way because I really do. It's like respect.
I think we're all on the spectrum to some degree.
Yeah, I think so too. It's like respect and envy at the same time because these people they don't react to like how other people think of them. And that's what I find the most incredibly endearing. And he's one of them, and he's translated all these puzzles. I'll never forget him solving a puzzle book by David Blaine. And it was like, you did what? And Blaine like denounced him and was like, this guy's a lunatic and there's no way, the puzzle's unsolvable. That's how it was made. I'm like, this looks pretty goddamn interesting. I'll be honest with you. Like, he found it. And he said to me, He's like, I did it to prove that David Blaine isn't God. And I was like, that's deep. That's heavy.
Wait, I gotta pee, and then let's talk about that. That's pretty interesting.
I'll ask you a question in the time being. When you said you went on like tour with and saw shows and painted and drew, since the drawing, the sketching or the portrait of the artist during the show, since that's your thing, as a photographer at shows or whatever, a videographer, it's hard for me to go to a show and enjoy it unless I'm actually behind the camera doing my thing, because that's how I connect with the music now, which has completely changed for me.
Mm-hmm.
So do you go to shows and you're like, fuck, if I could only be sketching this now, and you just don't enjoy the show anymore? And is the only way for you to enjoy the show is to be on the side of stage and actually do your thing and connect with the music? I feel a lot of people don't understand that, or spouses get upset like, oh, just watch the show with me and don't do your stupid drawings. Or how is it for you? Did it ruin it for you?
Couldn't agree with you more on that it's you want to do your thing at the shows. Like you have to.
You have to.
And
you just don't enjoy the music anymore otherwise.
I'm going to sound like a total spoiled wreck right now in saying that like I won't even go to shows unless I'm allowed and invited or have asked permission to do such a thing. I'm not just going to a show to hang out.
All right.
That said, I have, for one reason or another, the live thing didn't work out, or, it was just something that like they couldn't put together in time. And I think if that ever, it's happened only a couple of times where like people were like, hey, we want to do this with you, but this show's so crazy that we don't know where we're going to put you. And I think they just overthink it on a logistics scale.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm really easy, truly. Like, you don't even know I'm there. Just put me
on the balcony.
Yeah, just put me in the easiest spot. I mean, I don't even need an area. I just need like where you put one head. I'm going to be your guest anyway. Just let me in with my stuff.
Right.
And so, but and that, okay, funny story.
It sounds terrible if somebody just hears you, you won't go if you're not allowed to take photos or be on the list, but it changes everything.
Yeah. Well, Nylon Mag, tell this story. Yeah. No, so Nylon Mag wanted to do a feature on me and did the feature about the paintings and this live drawing. They said, so of all the people that you want to paint with, who would be your like top of your list still? And I said, Morrissey.
Right. Good luck
and they go, we're going to make it happen. I was like, before you enter into this zone, I was like, know that it's very difficult for a third party to negotiate this because they don't know what you're asking ever. That you want to paint their band. They think you're going to be some kind of circus act. They don't want anything to do with
Rolf
redirecting.
Harris.
Yeah.
You know that one? That guy, Rolf Harris?
No,
He's an English live painter.
But he does like, is it upside down, Jim Morrison or something, and then flips it around at one of those?
I don't think that's that guy. But yeah, I have seen that. Anyway, so what happened with Nylon?
So they magically say, oh, it's on.
Really?
You're approved. We're going to do it at Carnegie Hall. And I was like, amazing. I was like, I can't believe it's happening. So we went, and they go, you're going to be in the front row. It's Morrissey has approved it. And his management, so it's a go. We're gonna send you. Our editor's gonna meet you, and they're gonna just watch you, and then we'll do an interview after. Great. I get there, and this guy at security at the front of the door, he's like, "Oh, hey, what's that?" I said, I had a 22 by 30 just board at that point, just to do the drawing on. And he goes, you have to go downstairs and check in. I was like, downstairs? And what's that? and the editor's like, what are you talking about? So we're redirected to not go into the ballroom, and we're going down these stairs. We're in the basement going through tunnels. I'm like, this isn't good. And I'm thinking, maybe it's backstage. And I'm a positive guy. Like, just think positive. So we get to this room. There's these three women at a control board in a closed room. And they're like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm painting live for Morrissey. It's approved. They're like, it's not approved with Carnegie Hall, so you're not doing it tonight. And I was like,
they're stiff with
and I
that
said,
kind of stuff.
Well, the first thing I said was, well, I'm in the front row. The first thing they said was, you're going to block somebody's view, so we can't have that. I said, I'm in the front row. Like, well, we can't have, was it charcoal? Yeah, if that gets on the carpet, I'm like, you have to be kidding me.
You should have snuck it in, man.
And I think just in that moment between the text going to Marcy's manager, this guy with red hair was Marcy's manager back, this crazy dude comes around, he's like, what the fuck is going on here?
Hello, mate.
Marcy said,
He's approved.
Marcy said, so sorry, so sorry. So that
Tell me
happened.
there's a happy ending that eventually you did it.
It's coming.
Okay, good. Thank God.
So it didn't happen, and this guy cursed these women out, the C word, the whole deal, and it was embarrassing. And I said, well, I'm saying in my head now, it's never gonna happen, not tonight, anyway. And he's like, Marcy's playing this casino the next couple nights. You come there, and I'm like,
Atlantic City.
I said, it was like some New York, an Indian casino, and I said, I'm not gonna leave the city, but thank you. I said, let's just stay in touch, and we'll do it when he's back in New York again. He said, great. Well, he no longer was the manager after about...
How could you not travel to see him at the casino and just do it?
I don't know, man.
What's wrong with you?
New York's like a girlfriend. Like all the venues have to be in the city. It was like this whole...
The one artist
dogma
says yes,
again.
you travel to go do it.
The dogma. Until
Ehud goes everywhere.
If Morrissey said yes, you can come film me, I would drive to Los Angeles and do it. It doesn't matter.
It wasn't, looking back, it wasn't the right move. But cut to, I'll get 8 years later.
Wow.
Debbie Harry, Blondie, was performing at MSG for her first ever MSG show. And we're friends. I did a live show with her in Atlantic City, and I mentioned to her that
for her, you go to Atlantic City.
Well, I was there. I was in. Wait a minute.
Morrissey, God forbid.
There's a.
You go to a Mohegan Sun casino in Connecticut.
I'm trying to help Atlantic City. So.
Or was he at Foxwoods?
Yeah. So I was actually in South Jersey at the time, and it was 10 minutes away. And I said, "This is just an opportunity. I have to go." And so Debbie set it all up, and we ended up talking about it. And I said, "Yeah, I'm just." She's like, "Well, did anything ever happen where you weren't able to do it?" And I was like, "Would be Morrissey." Well, this is funny. The first thing she does is introduce me to Chris before the show, and she said, "Hey, Chris, this is Todd. He's gonna draw live tonight on the side of the stage." She just looks over at me and goes, "Good luck," and just like walks away. She's like, "Oh, Chris." So, it was funny. And then we talked about having not been able to do a show, and I mentioned Morrissey. And then cut to Madison Square Garden. She reached out and said, "Didn't you say you wanted to always do a show with Morrissey? And if you'd like, I can set you up with a pass so that you can paint him and me at MSG this week." And I'm like, so it finally happened.
Nice. There is a happy ending.
There is a happy ending. So I got to do...
He was a guest, or he did a full set?
He did a full set. He was headline.
I actually painted at Carnegie Hall.
Son of a bitch.
I did because there was this, and it was touch and go. There was this for this. You know how they do the Michael Dorff and Shlomo do those, big tribute shows.
Oh yeah,
City
yeah.
Winery event.
So it was like one for the Talking Head. No, for David Byrne. And I did This Must Be the Place and painted live while I was doing it. But right before, they were like, "Oh, no, you can't do that. It's like $40,000 if you want to do that." Like with the union. And then we were just like, okay, we're not going to do it.
Put your stress level way through your head. And you're like,
I didn't really care. I'd be like, okay, then I'll just get to perform. It's fine. And then actually it was more stress when they said, "Oh, actually you can do it." And Shlomo held the painting. And I'm like just doing that, painting like that. But I ended up doing a painting at
Wait,
Carnegie.
you painted and sang?
Yeah.
At the same
that's
time.
the way I do the live paintings. I paint and sing.
You're blowing me away right now.
Because I
incredible.
set up a loop or something so I can just have the music going on a loop. And then I just
painting
then I just
he did live
paint,
right there.
paint and sing.
Here, in this room, he sang 2 songs and did that in one.
Man, why aren't I doing that? Why don't I paint you doing that?
Okay. I mean, not today. But
Right now. Let's go. Set up. Where's your instrument?
Well, listen, I'll definitely loop you in the next time he actually plays a show where he paints.
Listen.
have
I'm
you
still
gone to
down
the-
to do a portrait today. That's gonna happen. but-
Have you gone to the new City Winery?
No, haven't been.
It's really nice, and I think for what you're doing too, it'll be great for you because the sight lines are amazing. It's kind of like a more open Bowery ballroom sort of setup in terms of like there's the balconies that go all the way around. You know,
Where is that located? Have we been there?
Pier 57.
it's
no.
right on the
No,
west
it's
side
just open.
highway.
But it's funny that you mentioned that because they had a woman at almost
Yeah.
every City Winery show who sat there with a little sketchbook and watercolors and used to do what you did just on a different
Yeah.
level.
Interesting.
And just gave it to either to the artist or the winery after. She just so they always hooked her up with a stool with a high table.
Nice.
And she would just do it.
I like that.
But for you to do it at the new City Winery when they eventually open could easily be arranged.
Yeah, you should come through. I got an art show.
wanna do something?
I got an art show there right now.
Oh, is there
Love
one
for
up
you to
right now?
see it. Yeah,
Paintings.
paintings,
Nice. Large stuff.
large stuff.
From
yeah.
live stuff. Or all different.
Some, but mostly not.
Do you separate it?
I did this thing last year, actually a year ago this week, where I was living at this museum called Fotografiska over on Park Avenue.
Cool.
It's the new photo museum. And I made a bunch of big scale paintings. And so most of those are up over at
What
City
was it
Winery.
called? That was a name to it.
Inhabiting.
Inhabitant.
Beautiful.
Inhabiting.
So you did a residency
I
there.
lived there.
Yeah.
They got me a bed, and and people would be walking through, and I would just be like,
You're like in the big front window.
laying on
and
my
like-
mattress. Basically, it was
Yeah.
one of those weird things.
6th floor.
It was funny. It was a year ago now, so it was like right before the pandemic was about to hit.
Yeah.
But like, has that changed your mode of working at all? The pandemic, or changed your thoughts and feelings about what you're pursuing or anything of that state?
I feel like it's enhanced it. What a time to be alive, man. I mean, couldn't get more like
alive.
just so much stuff coming at you, and for artists right now it's just free ammo. I mean, it really is. Just grab anything, walk out, just listen to 5 minutes of anybody spouting off, and you're like, I could make 10 paintings out of that.
Right.
You know, just incredible. It's a gift. I consider this whole time a gift.
So has it all been positive though, or have you had because for me, I've had periods of really good focus and sort of reawakening, and I've also had periods of kind of drifting and just being like a little lost. So it's been both.
Yeah, definitely periods of being lost because I don't get back to that rhythm that I had.
Right.
You know, of there was a flow to it, and I realized then I was probably more habitual than I thought. You know, with how I worked and how I was moving around every day. What I did on a day-to-day changed completely. And then it was better because it was different. It made me feel different. It made me look at the work differently. It moved me around to different locations. And while the live shows stopped, I haven't felt like this urge to be painting at live shows or doing the live drawings at all. I'm sad for all my musician friends. I see that struggle just start to happen, and I'm like, fuck. And I think in the beginning, everyone's like, it's cool. Come right back. It'll be all right. It'll be all right. And it's like, it's not all right, because a lot of these guys, and like yourself, where it's like, it's a hand-to-mouth thing, you know, especially with music. Christ. And it's hard enough to get a gig with all the pop smear out there, and just like, it's impossible. So it's, I like what people are doing though, these little online shows that they edit themselves and do like cool stuff. I saw like Parquet Courts did one at like Dustin Yellen's Pioneer Works, and that was pretty cool. And they kind of put an edit together of like footage from like the year before, but most of it was live there. Like they were just doing like a live show with like different POVs and
Talking about music.
yeah, music.
Okay. But at Dustin Yellen's, is that his name?
Yeah, Pioneer Works.
Pioneer
Have you
Works,
ever been
yeah.
there?
Yeah, Red Hook. I mean, I used to live right down the street
okay.
from there. I lived on Union and Van Brunt
So, you know, they
forever.
just kind of cleared the room, because I'd imagine that during this time, they haven't had any residencies or anything like that.
Right.
Because usually it's full of artists. It's an art residency spot, like a colony,
Yeah.
a colony in a, in a building, so to speak.
There's still a way for artists to be active, musicians and whatnot, with all the live streaming. There's a lot of people, including Joe and me and Jesse Mallon, were set up for live streaming, doing it the right way, high quality, and trying to stay active and still be relevant and put stuff out there.
Yeah. And you have to. I mean, how else are you going to...
Well, you could give up and stay home,
There's no giving up. Can't do that. That's not even an option. I don't think for any artist that's really an option. Oh, I guess it is for some. We've seen it, but
that's a brutal existence.
It's a brutal existence.
The one after you've given up. I mean, that sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah.
But to keep going forward, to keep pushing forward is definitely a challenge. What do you do to keep your sort of like yourself optimistic and moving forward?
Jokes.
Tell
Funny.
us one.
I mean, I have a friend always said, "Jokes, man, jokes." It's humor. Yeah. So even the most sarcastic shit. I mean, like we all can be so sarcastic. A lot of it's ribbing. I guess from where I'm from, it was we all, like my friends and I would just rib on each other constantly. I mean, the nicknames, the this, the that, and like, the snide texts and whatever that go back and forth. We just have fun with it. It makes me laugh. And if you can laugh through this, and if you can also put humor in the work, that's really important. So I think without a sense of humor, how can you even respect humanity? You really have to understand humor.
Yeah.
In some way, you have to be able to laugh.
And
especially
not take yourself too seriously.
No, you have to laugh at yourself first. You're the funniest part of your own, like, spiel. I mean, like, when I step outside myself, I look at like even like just whatever, how I dress or how I look, and I'm like, God, you're so fucking ridiculous, dude. Who are you? Like, and I laugh, and it's funny, but that's okay. Like, why can't you have fun like that?
Well, you absolutely can, and you should, and you must.
Yeah.
What are you grateful for?
I'm grateful for love. First and foremost, that I get to share all my time with this one, and like, it's incredible. So, and that's a long time thing.
How long have you guys been together?
Oh, how many years now? 20? 27?
27?
27 years.
Moly.
That's amazing.
Mazel tov.
Mazel tov.
So married, but
made the dream
married
come
20
true.
years. Yeah, together 27 years. Yeah.
Where'd you meet?
We met on the beach when we were kids.
Wow.
In Ocean City,
City,
New Jersey. Yeah, down south.
That's incredible.
We went to different schools. She had boyfriends. I had girlfriends. We were always good friends, but we were always that friend to either her boyfriend or my girlfriends that was like, yeah, and you talk to Megan a lot, and you should really not talk to her as much, and we should focus. I'm like, well, if you can't understand why we're friends, then I guess this relationship's over. So it would be the thing that ended a lot of relationships with girls for me, because we were so tight. And then it was just like, what are we doing? Like, why?
It's either her or me.
Yeah, that's
Yeah. That's the cliche.
That's the cliche, right? But yeah, so I'm grateful. I think love is so important. If it's not the most important thing in life to have an experience and to believe in.
Yeah. I've been working on gratitude lately. Well, in that app I was telling you about, Clubhouse, there's one room that's like the gratitude room, and people just like share what they're grateful for, and like just listening to that for like an hour today, just as like, and then also sharing. It's almost like this, like, like this sort of 12-step meeting, but it's not necessarily about like anything negative or an addiction. Like the great thing about 12-step was just that feeling of community and like expressing yourself. It's really therapeutic. It just makes you know you're not alone, you know. But then just also like focusing on, oh, let me try to be grateful and just like work on gratitude. It helps.
What are you most thankful for?
I'm thankful for like a lot of things. I mean, I'm thankful that I'm in a space where I feel like I'm, you know, optimistic about working towards healing and improving and stuff like that. You know, I'm grateful for progress and abundance and friendship. You know, grateful to be able to do this. You know, just it's like noticing the things that you have that are it's easy to take for granted. You know, grateful to be able to paint and still be charged by that and still have that feeling of like not knowing what's next, but excited that I can build something new that is exciting to me and somebody else, hopefully.
Simple pleasures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it is at the end of the day.
Yeah.
You know,
whenever you hear about, I mean, nowadays, when you hear about somebody's like really complex situation or problem, don't you suddenly feel like it's like sliding off of you? You're like, whoa, what? Like, you know, like you can hear them and listen to them like with a really good ear as well, like a much better ear than in the past. Like you'd have been like so
involved.
Yeah, you'd have been so locked in it.
Let me solve this.
And
for
now
you.
you can just kind of like give them some like positive, like you can really shine a light like on them and let them like kind of have that thing. That's something I've noticed about, you know, I guess this time as well.
Right, like what? Just your own individualities comes more into focus or something like that.
Yeah, I think the people are just they're becoming more open in this thing.
That's true. Like they're becoming because you get pushed up against like what's life all about, and then you have to sort of explore. You know, it's actually an elevated place to be when you're sort of pushed to the brink.
And I think maybe what the agenda thought would happen didn't, and that people are resilient motherfuckers, and no matter what you try to put them up against, you're not going to win like in a control way, not in a world that already understands what being free is or having the freedom to create or do what you do is.
Do you think there's an agenda to control us?
I think there's probably substrates of many of them that kind of all intersect with each other in some way, shape, or form.
They work in concert.
They're a concert.
They're a concert of a concert of conspiracies.
There's a woodwind section. There's a horde section. There's all kinds of agenda sections.
So what do you got go? What's the future then? Like, what are you working towards? Like a show or anything like this, or what just like working in general?
It's working in general for the most part. And I have a wonderful relationship with UTA Artist Space in Los Angeles, in Beverly Hills.
What's that all about? I love it out there.
I do too. Especially for exhibiting the work, it feels like I finally have an outlet there, which is nice.
Is this a gallery?
It is.
Nice.
And they are an agency. I mean, you've heard of UTA, I'm sure, United Talent Agency, with musicians and actors and the like. Well, they have branched off with a fine arts division where they're representing a stable of artists.
So you got good rep.
So I got a rep, and the first thing I did with them was that I was kind of courted with them over the last 2 years with a real incredible curator named Arthur Lewis. And they had kind of put me in a show that was here at the Hole called the Meet Me in the Bathroom show. It was Lizzie Goodman's book.
Yeah, about the 2000s.
Yeah, about our era.
Yeah.
About the thing we lived through.
Right.
And I wasn't in the show at first, and then the curator was part of UTA, and they had got together and said, didn't you do these live paintings? Didn't you work with these bands? And I was like, I did. And they said, well, we're going to run it by Lizzie. And she was like, of course. And I remember Lizzie was like a writer forever. I remember reading her stuff like online.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, the show was a big success. I thought that was a cool show.
That's great, man.
And
That was out in Beverly Hills?
I was here in New York.
Oh, okay.
At Bowery.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, I went through L.A. and got placed in a show in my backyard.
That's funny.
So, what's that? Which led to the Emergency on Planet Earth show, which came down a month ago, which went up during the pandemic, which was the whole point of the show. And had some great people in there.
And where was that show?
At their space, they have artist space in Beverly Hills that Eyewear actually designed. It's a really beautiful gallery.
It's like a group show.
We did a group show.
Did people come? Or
they did.
Could they come? They could.
People could, but it was all appointment only. But it was tough, and they were just barely out of the first lockdown, and unbeknownst heading towards the next. And then by the end of the show, they were locked down again, and the gallery stayed closed for a couple of weeks. And then they were supposed to have another show go up, and it went up late. And it's been a disaster for them physically to have exhibitions. And they're really trying hard, and they've fought the system on that, and they're doing their best with the capricious jurisdictions being enforced. But I think they'll be fine in the end. So now I'm doing an online show with them next. It's actually physical because the work will be in LA. They're going to have it there for like collectors to see, but it'll be up on their gallery online, and that's where they'll promote it. So we'll do it.
Once you're doing that, you're going to get into the NFT scene. And you're going to blow their minds with this like
NFT division.
Check out my new shit.
Yeah. We're going to talk about that.
Moves.
We're going to talk about that. I think it's because I'm like from the 50s. I feel like I'm the mark maker from the 50s. That's what I feel like every time I paint. But I like that thing. But the idea that I could like do this digitally, or somebody could make something move like that, I've just not seen it happen. And I'm like, nope, can't happen. There's no way. I don't know. So I'm like so anti technology in that regard, I feel like, and maybe that's why I haven't really tuned into it. But
it's like, it's just, I look at it like this. It's an exciting new medium, and it's like, everything that you've done and worked towards can then be you can use to inform what you do in that medium, and it's exciting to be able to have the beginner's mind sort of foisted on you, like it's hard to achieve the beginner's mind, especially when you get up, when you've been doing it as long as like we have. So I look at it as an opportunity in that way of kind of like
you're 100% on that.
Yeah. Re-engaging that sort of youthful spirit.
The downside to it to me is how much more time do I have to stare at a fucking screen? It's already too much. Like between the phone and the laptop and sometimes you go, you're spiraling into it, and I'm like, can I just I'm going to go paint for 6 hours. I can't do this anymore. Turn the phone off. And remember when they came out though, you're so excited and you just, oh God, I'm talking to this person. I'm doing this. I'm over here. I'm on this. Now you're like, fuck this thing. Or at least I am. I've gotten full circle with it.
Yeah, well, we are, we're part phone. It's weird.
Part phone.
We are, man. It's like if you lose your phone, that weird feeling of panic, like, oh my God.
Yeah, it's like it's like you walked outside without your shoes on, and you're now 3 states away, and you didn't know it happened so fast.
Yeah, man.
It's true. That's a true thing.
Don't forget to plug your upcoming collaboration with the glasses also. That's
right, that I'm wearing. Right. I have this fun collab where Caddis Eyewear developed with a work of art of mine to package and market for, and they let me design a pair of glasses, and these are it's like a rosy colored lens, which is how I like to see the world. And
these are nice.
Thanks. I got to
cool.
do the.
So they're not for. It's not prescription.
I want some.
It can be.
It can be.
These ones aren't though.
Those are zeros. Yeah.
I need some of these.
I know. I do wear a reader, so I do wear a 1.
This is a good look.
Yeah. So
Yeah, it
you look,
is.
You look
It is.
intelligent over there, Bobby.
I got a pair for you.
You do?
Of course I do.
I would love that.
Yeah. Do you
Are
wear
they like zeros like this?
Do you
Like,
want zeros? Or
I want like exactly like this, where it's zeros and just like where the lens is like I can look through. Because these kind of glasses you can wear at all hours.
That's what I wanted. I wanted a
the
night.
key to wearing night sunglasses at night is to be able to see your eyes. If you can see the eyes, it looks legit. If you
It looks legit.
it does,
I
man.
agree.
If you
This
try
is
to-
what I went for.
If you try to rock these at night, you're a goofball.
Yeah. Who are you? Who's this guy? Right. Like who are you? Right.
I love a pair of those.
I got a pair for you,
Really?
and I have a pair for you.
Thank
That's
you.
amazing, dude. Thank
So-
you so much.
If you like, and you might be. I don't
And
know
they're
if you.
available February 20.
They drop February 23rd.
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 A week after this podcast comes out.
All right.
Oh, the art. The title of the artwork, which has been incorporated into everything, is
Are they here right now, the glasses?
yeah,
Holy shit.
is Opportunity Land post-Sonic ancestors.
Wow.
Show it to that
This is
camera.
going to be my new favorite. Oh, dude, this is exciting.
Now,
The packaging.
So the
Welcome
packaging
to
is
the
your
new-
art?
so
This
and then
is
my
beautiful.
quotes on the bottom.
Holy shit. This is my new look, by the way. Oh, wait, these are prescription.
Those are a 1. So that's like read the quote on the bottom, right? So how does that look to you when you read it?
The quote?
Yeah.
It looks fine.
So and then
You're a
look
one,
at your
Poppy.
look at
But
your
I
look at your
can't-
screen.
But I can't wear these like that's like,
No, because you can't. I can't either. I'm not.
Do you have any zeros?
I will for
just-
you. I'll get you a pair.
Ah.
I'll have those
What
for
does
you.
it mean they're ones? It's just prescription
It's
one?
a +1, like typical reader. If you look at a power, it's a power. Yeah. It's your magnification. So look
Oh,
at your
it's for
screen.
reading.
Yeah,
they look
at
good on you too, dude.
Yeah, but I see Todd blurred, but this looks fine.
Exactly.
This looks amazing.
right.
Yeah. Maybe I.
And it's the blue light
Wait,
blocking.
so-
So it blocks the
really?
radiation into your
Is
eyeballs
this for
from
like
these
when
damn
you're on
screens.
the laptop and stuff
They're
like
all for that. Yeah, they're-
right. Interesting.
So they're great for that.
Yeah.
And make your eyes feel like, constantly relieved.
How'd you get hooked up with these guys?
I met them through my friend Taylor Steele, who's a filmmaker,
Mm-hmm.
and he was doing
Can I see the box, Joe?
creative for them, and introduced me to the crew.
Mm-hmm.
And we've just kind of always stayed in touch. And I've tried. At the time, I didn't need readers. I was like, "That's cool, man. I don't wear glasses." It was like that. And then as soon as I put on a 1, I was like, "Oh shit, I need glasses." Like I put the 1 on, and I looked at my screen and read a text, and I was like, "Wow, how much easier that was to read with these on." And I was like, "Well, maybe I am a 1 just to like go on my computer with."
Right.
So that's what I use it for.
Do you use the 1 to go on your computer and stuff?
I do.
Oh, okay. So you don't
Mhm.
use those. Those are just the out and abouts.
Yeah.
Those are his podcast glasses.
These are podcast
Sure.
glasses.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I like the quote. Draw from the unique lens in the present. Did I read that correctly?
Draw
Yeah.
from a unique lens in the present.
Todd
That means
Di-
like be in
DiCiurcio.
be in the moment.
Be in the moment.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the idea was like, I was trying to bring it back to if you're wearing these.
Awesome. I also want to say a shout out to Michael Imperioli,
They,
Oh.
they are.
who connected us to Todd for today's podcast.
Thanks, Michael.
How do you know him?
I met Michael through Megs.
He
Back
speaks
in the-
highly of you.
I love him so much, and so she was working for Dolce at the time. Yeah, it was her Dolce & Gabbana days, and he was a client, right? You were dressing him for something,
Oh.
and we went. He had invited her to the Playhouse when he had Studio Dante, and I went to a play and saw what he was up to, and it was mind-blowing. But our conversations after the show were about music,
Yeah, he's a big music fan.
and we totally hit the apex of both of our musical likes was with Guided by Voices, Ohio boys,
Ohio.
Dayton
Yeah.
Dayton boys, and we just talked, and then I remember saying to him, "Well, actually, I'm going to do a live show with Bob Pollard in like a week or so. He's coming to town. Would you like to come, to that while I paint? And he's like, really? And he came with me to the show, and boy, did we have a night. I mean, it was a late one. It was a good one. It was a great show, and he got to meet Bob, and Bob was incredible. First line out of Bob's mouth coming up off the stage and seeing Michael backstage. And I was warned by Bob's manager because we got there and I kind of set up. We didn't say hi to the band at first. We just were going to go after. And so I just got set up and we just hung out and did our thing. And Rich, who's his manager, was like, hey, Bob's going to flip out. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, such a big Imperioli fan. You have no idea what this is going to do. And I'm like, what's going to happen? He's like, I don't know, but it's going to be good. And I was like, really? He's like, oh, can't wait. So end of the show happens. We wander backstage and Bob's literally walking up the steps, like toweling off. And he just stops, his eyes open, and he just sees him across the room. And he goes, what are you doing here? I thought you listened to Winger. It's like the first thing he said. I thought you listened to Winger. And Michael's like, hey, nice to meet you. Like, it's just like.
Where did he get the Winger thing
I
from?
don't know. Like
Kip Winger. Shout out Kip Winger.
Yeah, Kip Winger. Shout out.
She's only 17. Anyway, so that was just like a riff. He didn't have any
It was just a moment like that happened. And, and this is Bob getting off stage after intense amounts of alcohol, as you know, from his on stage it just goes until he is on his back singing Highway to Hell, and you don't know what's going on. They're dragging him off, and so that's usually the case. But he's still standing at this one and came up, and then it was just an all night fun fest with everybody talking and hanging out. It was cool. They got to talk music and film. Bob's a big film buff. He's a huge film head, which was cool.
Did you read Michael's book?
I didn't read it yet.
It's so good.
He's going to kill me.
It's really good. It's really interesting. I really liked it.
And I have a copy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I heard you guys talking about it, and I just thought, wow.
It's wild.
Yeah, wild.
Yeah.
And I thought the same thing. I thought there was some autobiographical notes in there.
Mm-hmm.
And after hearing him talk about it, I'm like, man, it just isn't. You want to believe that. You do, Todd, but it's not true. It's like, and because he's so convincing. That's just it. That just shows you his mastery of his craft. It's like, you want to say that somehow that he's like, no, but he's so inspired by it. And he's such a incredible person. His Playhouse was awesome. Had you ever?
He doesn't limit himself.
No.
He's like, I love people that aren't afraid to be expansive like that. Have
you ever been to any of his band shows?
Are you talking about? We're talking about Guided by Voices or Michael?
Michael.
No.
He had a band.
I went to a reading of his book though with Lydia Lunch and some other people.
Okay.
So that was kind of there was music going on.
It was like the Zopa thing that he's doing now. Was it? Was he singing or talking or playing guitar?
They were acting out scenes from the book.
A bass player doing.
Dude, he can play and sing.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's interesting.
We did. He
does it all.
He does
He's
do it all.
He's fun to listen to. Like just listening to him talk is fun.
I know.
Just sit around listening to him is.
I know.
Pretty fun.
He's an incredible guy. The first band was La Dolce Vita.
Uh-huh.
At least that I know of, and that I was privy to. And we actually traveled together and went to a couple shows in Philly all together and just had the best times, dinners and then the shows. And he was with this band that we had kind of executive produced called Death of Fashion that Michael loved too. And so he would have Death of Fashion open and they would trade off, for shows. And they were doing a bunch of stuff like LES and All Around. And nobody knew it was Michael's band. He wouldn't really say anything or he doesn't put himself out there like that. It's about the music, which I loved about him. And so it was cool. We did all these underground places and everyone would be like, what's he doing here? And it's like, he's in the band. Did you get it? It was fun. Oh, I did Hungry Ghost with him too. He used again, a plot point using art in the film. I brought an archive of 50 original live drawings. And so in the Hungry Ghost, there's a record store is part of the plot, and they hung like my work like edge to edge to edge, all the originals in a record store. And to me, I was like, this is not what a record store looks like. Like, you know, like, and, but for him, but for him doing that, it put it all into perspective of like what the film was about. See, I don't see those things. I didn't see that big picture. That's who Michael is. He sees it. He's creating a world. And I always felt his passion was just writing all the time. Anyway, don't you feel like when he's acting, I mean, he's an incredible actor, but then if you talk to him, you realize that he'd much rather be writing, creating.
Time to have him on the pod again.
I don't know. I would love to act. I think that would be so fun. The few times I've done it,
You should try it.
I enjoyed it a lot.
Do a play. I mean, that's probably the best way to break into that.
Yeah.
I've not done it. I've only been. I was cast as myself in Gossip Girl.
Nice.
For 2 episodes, as myself, and I had a line in the first one, but I wasn't.
On your IMDb.
It's not.
It's not.
They wouldn't let me because
Really?
I'm not union.
You didn't have talking lines?
I did.
So
I'm like the guy in the gray area because like I talked, and I have no. Maybe we should like put this on the record, but no, they
So
I
you
never.
were on some episodes that came out and everything.
And I had
Cool.
words on both of them, and they refused to credit me on IMDb because I'm not union.
I thought once
So I
you
can't have it
talk-
on IMDb.
I thought once you have lines, you're in.
If you watch the show, I'm in the credits. But if you look for anything else, like I'm just another underground character.
All right. Well, we better wrap this up. It's been
Yeah.
going on for
how are you
2
gonna,
hours.
How are
Oh,
you gonna
shit.
sketch it?
Well, you know what? Let's do a quick portrait. I'm gonna do an
Yeah,
ink
yeah, yeah.
portrait, like something fun and fast.
Well, let's do that after the podcast. So you want to
Well,
do
no,
it?
I'll add it. I want to add it to the podcast.
Okay.
And you want me to work like right here?
Yeah, wherever you want, because I could set the camera. For those of you
All
listening, thank you for listening. For those of you watching, Todd is gonna sketch Joe.
Thanks everybody for tuning in. What? Give everybody your like social media and everything like that.
I'm at Odyssey at ODDDC across Tumblr, Twitter, Instagram.
Do you like Tumblr?
I think I like Tumblr better than all of them.
Me too.
Secretly.
And it's
Yeah.
still going, huh?
Yep.
I
want to get back on that.
They just seem like a solid they
It's
just
fun.
It's like, okay, man, this is who we are.
I
We
thought
don't
that
have
was
to-
like the future. Like it was just like the ultimate creative. You could do whatever you want. Put music.
I feel like I get way more interaction there, creatively interaction, not just people like, can you say hi? It's like, no. I like if you want to like let's talk about art here.
Right.
And I love that like Tumblr was all about that. Like people
it's
would
still
ask about
going on,
mediums
huh?
and
Yeah.
yeah, it is.
I want to do that. All right.
is.
Thanks, Todd.
Cool.
Thanks, Meg.
Thanks, Joseph.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Ehud.
Ehud.
Thank you.
Later, everybody. Hi, this is Joseph Arthur. Thanks for checking out Come to Where I'm From. Please support us on Patreon, patreon.com/come to where I'm from. We are an independent podcast, and any contributions you can make are greatly appreciated.